we're trying to create throughout the country. We need to take a look at those, certainly, given private properties, decision-making in regard to them. We need to take a look at compressed natural gas, liquid natural gas, and other alternative energies that make sense. In that the energy issue in general is one of the number one reasons why we've had a hard time keeping manufacturers and those companies that are dependent on energy solutions in business in this state.
The president is going to be in Menominee Falls today. He's going to be touring a company that makes batteries and fuel cells for renewable energy products. Do you differ a lot from the president when it comes to energy policy?
Well, if you take a look at the proposed cap-and-trade bill that the president is probably behind, it increases mandates over 40%. It creates a new government agency to regulate cap-and-trade. So it's not that we differ on becoming energy independent. It's that we differ with my approach. I believe that we grow jobs just as JFK and Ronald Reagan believe. When you reduce taxes, reduce government interference and decision-making, and empower the American people in the private sector to grow jobs, just as we did in Wisconsin when we had that job spike. So it's our approach that's different, Joy. Certainly not the end game. In the 70s, as you recall, the Department of Energy was created with one goal, to make the American people and the American economy energy independent. It's failed. We need to look to the private sector, where this country has always looked, to bring entrepreneurism and innovation to the fore so that we can make sure that we have a sustainable job growth pattern coming out of the private sector.
Next, we go to Jack in Winchester. Hello, Jack.
Hi, thanks for taking my call.
Yes, what's your question?
I'm just curious what Ms. McCormick would propose for how to better utilize our renewable natural resources in the 8th District to promote and bolster the longevity of the forest products industry, and in particular the pulp and paper industry in the district.
All right. Can you do something to bolster the pulp and paper industry in the district, Terry McCormick?
There are so many facets of this question that I hit on when I was chair of economic development in the state of Wisconsin. We started to see paper companies leaving Wisconsin and this country due to the fact that acquiring a new machine and gaining approval for regulation in this state, even though our emission standards were less rigorous than the EU at the time, forced companies to relocate to Brussels and Paris. So let's start with a tax and regulatory climate that makes sense for the paper industry. Then let's take a look at our infrastructure. When we have timber that needs to be transported to different outlets and paper companies, we don't own our own railway systems any longer. It's been negotiated into the hands of the Canadians. So if we had transportation infrastructure available to manufacturers so we could put that cluster of timber to paper companies back to use, that would be one thing. If we would make sure that our taxes and regulation made sense so that they didn't drive our businesses out of this country, that'd be number two. Now, the question centered in renewables with the paper industry. There's been innovative research when it comes to cellulose with paper and creating renewable energy. We can certainly understand that the private sector needs to continue to do R&D and make sure that these things are available. As I mentioned earlier, alternative energies is going to be key because the cost of energy is another driving force for American and Wisconsin manufacturers as to whether or not they can stay competitive while locating in Wisconsin and growing jobs right here at home.
Next, we go to Dale in Chicago. Hi, Dale.
Yes, good morning. My question relates to the issue of free markets and health care, which you previously addressed. It's a two-part question based on the fact that you stress the free market, yet no market can exist without a level playing field. And when you have monopolies, they distort that playing field so that the big players can adversely affect the smaller players and generally put them out of business. We've seen that in the way the lobbying took place over this so-called healthcare reform that, like yourself, I disagree with the way it played out. Would you be in favor of controlling the monopolies, and if so, other than the federal government, how would you control such powerful economic forces? And
I'm gonna, because of time, Dale, we're gonna have to leave the question there. But I do want to know what you mean by the monopolies.
Is she opposed to Medicare, which also might be considered a distortion of the marketplace?
Okay, let me try to tackle that very quickly. I wrote a 5-point policy solution to be counter opposite of the so-called healthcare reform bill that passed, that was, as I described, an insurance power grab. In that 5-point proposal, which you can find it either on my website or if you do a Google search, I talked about the importance of making sure that individuals own their own insurance, that we had the portability of that we had transparency in costs and in quality, which are all available. If you look up any healthcare association or hospital association website, you know that those cost and quality indicators are available. The question really underlined what are the barriers to the free market working in healthcare, and I cannot agree more with the caller that we need to identify those barriers to the free market working for individual ownership and for the ability to purchase insurance across state lines on an individual basis. Monopolies that I believe you might be referring to have been talked about with maybe 5 or 6 major players owning most of the healthcare industry. We need to take a look at the antitrust law protections that some of these industries have been able to garner through business as usual politics so that the free market can be used once again to adjust for the fact that many Americans could not be able to afford their own health care insurance. Those adjustments in the market will take place if it is allowed to work. Now, as you're looking at some of the government programs, we're going to have to make sure that competitive bids are the rule and not the exception. As we all know, we've been able to identify waste, fraud, and abuse on a number of different levels with the 1,100 agencies within the United States government. We need to go after those with the Grace Commission, such as the proposed audits in the Reagan administration, so that we hold government to the same standards that we expect the American people who own businesses are held to.
Another issue, and very briefly, Ann on Facebook writes, Ms. McCormick says she supports keeping the government out of personal lives of citizens. What's your opinion on gay marriage?
I believe in terms of marriage that marriage is between a man and a woman. I also believe in civil liberties and the Bill of Rights when it comes to individual citizens. By definition of marriage, it is a religious sacrament for many Americans, and that's why I hold that position.
In our final minute, then, why do you think 8th District voters should vote for you on September 14th?
The citizens of the 8th Congressional District is where I live, where I raise my children, where I've started 3 businesses, where I've enjoyed life for decades with my family and my husband. I believe I have the solutions, the ideas, and the track record that supports those ideas that we need at this time in American history. It is time to make sure that the American people are listened to, that they have the trust in their representative that they should. I believe in a republic form of government, and I believe that all of the groups in the 8th Congressional District, whether families, churches, or any other groups such as Tea Party, constitutionalists, and independents are looking for solutions and not business as usual politicians.
Thank you very much for being with us. Terry McCormick, Republican candidate for Wisconsin's 8th Congressional District. I'm Joy Cardine. This is the Ideas Network.